how did Terminal City come about?
Well, I was working at DC Comics at the time. I was on staff, and Shelley Bond, who was then Shelley Roberg, was the editor uh, editor of Vertigo, worked directly under Karen Berger. She approached me one afternoon because she'd been a big Mr. X fan. And she approached me one afternoon, asked me to lunch, and wanted to know if I could do another Mr. X for DC for Vertigo. And it was basically that simple. So could you do something like that for us? We would be doing it freelance. So in addition to my normal duties, I'd have to do this after hours. So I couldn't do it on staff while I was on staff at DC. I was on staff as manager of creative services at the time. So I said, yeah, I don't have anything to do, and I'll be happy to. So I sat down, I dug out my notes, unused ideas for Mr. X, and one of them was having a window washer that had once been a human fly, once been a daredevil. It was so I fleshed that all out and basically tried to tell, put it in a similar environment from Mr. X. And I knew I wanted to work with Michael Lark. I'd worked with Michael Lark once before. I was editor of the Raymond Chandler graphic novels for Byron Price for a while. And we did one graphic novel of his little sister, and Michael Lark was the illustrator on that. And I liked his work enough that I knew, he'd be fun to work with. I often said if I had to get another Mr. X artist, he would be it. He even did some Mr. X drawings for me, to try out to see if we could relaunch Mr. X at some point with somebody. But when Shelley saw what I'd created for Terminal City, I did little character drawings of each of the characters. I did a couple cityscapes and wrote out treatment, and they liked it. They signed me. I turned in one script, and they signed me up right away. So it ran. We got 2 miniseries out of it. It ran for some time, a couple of years. Earned us a couple of awards, and it's one of the high points of my career. I really enjoyed doing it, and I really enjoyed seeing it come out. It came out so it was as perfect a work as I'd ever produced.
What was it about Michael Lark's work and his style that made you think he was the person to do this, that he was the right guy for the job?
Well, he had a command of noir storytelling for the first thing. I liked his figure work, and it had improved immensely by the time he came to Terminal City. It was so much better than what he'd done on Little Sister. Well, the Little Sister was good, and it was cinematic. I liked that about his work quite a lot, that it was cinematic, that it had camera angles, it had establishing shots, it had close-ups, it had quite a variety of camera shots, and they were all influenced by cinema. And that's probably what attracted me most to him. And he made it look easy, made it look natural. And in Terminal City, he did that even more so, because his style in Terminal City is very open. We relied on the colorist quite a lot. We didn't do a lot of heavy blacks for a book that was supposed to be noir in nature. We didn't do a lot of heavy blacks or a lot of heavy shadows. we did that with the color. We worked with a colorist, Rick Taylor, who'd done Batman Adventures, and I loved his palette. And I asked for him to do the color, and he turned in a glorious piece of work every time.
Now, in terms of capturing the feel of this retro futurist style, what is a color palette? What is your approach to color?
Well, that's a good question. The thing was to not be too colorful, but to try to use pastels with a lot of ketones. But a lot of times, one of the things that Rick, the colorist, had talked about was he wanted to do a lot of changing the color of the sky, for instance, to express the mood of the scene. So we have a lot of red sky in Terminal City, even though it's not set at sunset or anything like that. It could be a night scene, but the sky might be, fire engine red, because that's the emotion of the scene. But again, pastels with ketones was kind of the order of the day. Sort of avoiding primaries, except as accents. We might have a bright red car, but the rest of the scene would be fairly subdued, subtle tones, things like that. Bright red or bright primary colors would be used mostly for accent and not as a basic palette.